All right, folks, here we are for another session of Off the Grid. Our next guest is an MC who calls New York home. He's an MC and a ferocious wordsmith on the mic. Within the last year, carries a new title, right? A father. Yeah, congratulations on the new addition to your family, man.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, well, hey, man, I wanted to welcome and thank Bobby J for hopping on this session with me on today's show. Hey, so thank you. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? Thank you for
Uh,
having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, so with that, man, I mentioned that I've just been a big fan of your music when I heard about you pre-COVID, and then I've just been following you ever since, man. So you've been killing it, man. And would you mind just kind of talking to us about your background a little bit, how you grew up, and then how long you've been making music?
Yeah, man. I started rapping around 11 years old. I grew up in Rockaway Beach, Queens, which is kind of a unique section of Queens because it's like isolated and has its own vibe and its own culture. Like we live on the beach, so there's like a heavy like surfing community mixed with like city landscapes and it's like kind of like almost a West Coast Venice Beach type of vibe on the East
Yeah.
Coast. So I grew up listening to, my parents listened to classic rock. My brother listened to, grunge and metal and hip hop. And, around like the mid 90s, his attention shifted to hip hop almost entirely. And I
Okay.
was just a young kid, like idolizing him. So I used to just go in his room and steal all his albums. And he had like 90s rap 101 in his room. So, I would just go in and study albums like Capital Punishment and Ready to
Oh,
Die and Illmatic and all that stuff. And around that time, the internet is also coming into everybody's house. So that
yeah.
was kind of my tunnel to the underground. And once I discovered like the technique of how rappers were putting their words together, like the multi-syllable style and stuff like that,
Yeah.
that's when I really, really was like, all right, this is a challenge for me. Like I want to see if I could do this. So yeah, man, like it was literally just me idolizing certain people like Pun and Eminem and Chino XL and Cannabis and just being like, I want to rap like those guys, man. So
Yeah.
that's where the journey started, and I've been going ever since. It's just it's something I fell in love with. It's been like the one constant thing that I've really cared about, probably the most over the course of my life. Like interests coming in and out of your life, but hip hop's just always been there for me.
Yeah, I could tell you're very calculated in the way that you put your verses together. And did you have the fortune of going to shows in New York when you were young, or was it mostly through the albums that your brother had?
It was mostly, honestly, it was mostly through the albums that my brother had, what I saw on TV, what I was reading on the internet. Like
Yep.
I kind of lived in a bubble, man. Like it wasn't like hip hop was all around me. You know what I mean? Like people didn't even people weren't making music, much less being rappers where I grew up. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Like
Good
and
point.
where I grew up, it's mostly like working class Irish people. Like the
Yeah.
average career trajectory is like you're gonna be a fireman, teacher, nurse. You know what I mean? Like so, just very like very very small town vibes. So for me to be a rapper, I was like an anomaly.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff was like what I saw on TV, what albums my brother was listening to, and then like as I got to high school and I started to meet other like-minded people, like people that
Yeah.
were trying to make music. That's where I really got to like dip my feet in the water, and that's when I started getting into studios and working with producers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. Did I see any shows as like a young kid that were pivotal for me? Um, Probably not till I was in like high school or college, but
Okay.
nothing that really jumps out, to be honest with you, man. Like it was me. I spent a lot of time in my basement, in my bedroom, just studying, man. That's the only way
Yeah.
I could describe it.
No, that's awesome, man. And you mentioned Capital Punishment. Were there any other albums that were very monumental in you becoming an MC that just you go back to it all the time and just it's a classic in your books?
Yeah, man. Capital Punishment, Ready to Die,
Yep.
Illmatic, Slim Shady LP,
Yeah.
Cannabis's first two albums,
Yeah. Oh, I
2000
love the
beat.
first album.
Yeah, man. Like I wasn't part of like the chatter around that album. I was just a huge Cannabis fan. Like in retrospect, I know it got a lot
Yeah.
of flack, but I love that album, and I love his
Same.
second album, um, Chino XL. I told you so.
Yep.
Big L, his first album and the one that came out, The Big Picture, after he died.
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest, Lost Boys, Legal Drug Money, man.
Yeah.
DMX's first album.
Yeah.
And his first two albums, yeah.
Yes.
So, and just everything, man. I loved it all. But I think albums like Capital Punishment, Slim Shady LP, Cannabis, even just the Cannabis radio freestyles,
yes,
that was the catalyst, man. That was the stuff that really blew my mind as a kid. You know what I mean? That was the spark that ignited it all. Just listening to those guys, man. So
yeah, awesome too that you had a diverse taste of music in your household. You mentioned your mom, loved rock. Your dad loved disco, soul, Motown, and your brother grunge and hip hop. And so, do you have any other favorite genres of music, or is it just strictly hip hop? What else do you like?
I mean, probably classic rock would be, my second favorite genre. I mean, again, man, my brother was an MTV addict, so it's I
Yeah.
I was, that's what I was forced to watch all day. So it's, being a young kid, grunge was huge, so it was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and then shit, man, just the 90s in general, man. I'm biased, but every genre was better, man. The hip hop that was out, the dance music, the pop music, the rock music, I was a fan of it all, man. I'm kind of a pop culture, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just, if we're talking about that era in particular, just growing up watching MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, you know what I'm saying? I know all about that shit. So that's all kind of part of my, that's all plays into the music. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, did your brother try to rap too at all when he saw you start?
No, man. It's so funny. He would. He just, you know what I'm saying? It's weird. He never got into actually trying to make music, and he's a huge music fan. I think he's just more on the fan side of it, for whatever reason, for me, that was it for me, and once I was able to record myself in my house and learn, the engineering side of it and all that stuff, I just got obsessed with it.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to your brother then for getting you in, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, hey, do you recall the first time that you performed? What was that like? Where was it at?
The first time that I performed, I mean, the first time I rapped in front of a crowd was in high school. Kids used to battle in the lunchroom, and that's really where it went from. All right, I think I'm good in my room, and I think I'm good in front of my friends, but this is when I really got to match wits with people, in the lunchroom and meet the other kids that were trying to do the same thing, and that's kind of where I met my boy Anthony, who at the time his rap name was Prophet, and he was around my age. Well, he was 14, I was probably 13, and he was my age, but he was wise beyond his years. He was one of those types of kids.
Oh, right.
He was doing everything that I wanted to be doing as a rapper. He was making real records. He was working with producers, and we battled, and then we became best friends, immediately. You know what I mean? So I owe him a lot because he was working with two producers at the time. One of them was this dude Radiant from Brooklyn, and then Kwame. So he's the one who brought me into the fold with Kwame, and that's kind of the start of my career. You know what I'm saying? The start of my professional career starts with me meeting him and him introducing me to Kwame. You know what I'm saying? So
that is crazy. And I read that you guys met when you were 13, and then, oh my God, dude, that doesn't happen every day. And so, I'm from Cali, but grew up overseas, and I'm more familiar with the West Coast underground scene. But I can imagine the New York underground scene is quite tough too, and trying to become an MC out there. And how was that coming up in the New York scene? Were the crowds very welcoming, or just you had to earn your worth?
I think every rapper has to earn their way. I don't. There's so many rappers in New York. It's no one's just gonna respect you off the basis of you just being a rapper. You really got to prove yourself. And I feel honestly, man, it's only been over the past 4 or 5 years that like people are really starting to recognize. You know what I mean? Like it took me 20 years just to get a semblance of a following. You know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
that the only reason that that's happened is because I put the work in over time. I
Yes.
really try to master what I do, and I think I try to be as undeniable as possible. Like I want anyone who's hearing me for the first time to, they may not like the music, but at least they could recognize like what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I've been lucky enough to put myself in the right circles. I've made a lot of friends in the New
Yeah.
York scene, um, both established and just getting their footing. From
Yeah.
Static Selected and Neff to Dom Dirty to shit, man. I mean, I got to meet Primo the other day and like have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? Like
That's
it's shit like that, man.
crazy.
Just crazy stuff. And it's wild to think about. All this comes from stuff that I'm making in my basement or my bedroom. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to wrap my head around, but it's amazing at the same time. It's like all I ever wanted to do as a rapper is work with people that I looked up to and people that I respect. So I've been able to do that, and I'm able to put out music and people listen to it and enjoy it. And it just seems like the more I do, the more I keep elevating. It's a slow and steady grind, but it's worth it, man. It's the little things that make it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm gonna tell you, man. The first time I heard your stuff was the back and forth track that you did with Kwame. I
Yeah,
think it was the video. I was fucking flipping out, man.
yeah,
That
man.
was ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
dude.
so I'm a big fan of back and forth duos like Nas, AZ, and Smith and Wesson. And to do that is quite difficult. And that was a complex assembly of lyrics, man. How
Yeah.
long did that take you guys to put that together? Was that?
Uh,
Holy
we
shit! That
we
was
did that at his house, and I remember it was like I don't know. I don't want to say it took too long. We probably worked on it for like 2 or 3 hours, but it was
wow.
like it was no writing. It was like, all right, I'm gonna come up with these 4 bars.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set it off. Then he would come right back in, and it's like certain situations like that. The creative energy just I don't know, it puts you in a different space, man.
It was
We did that in
crazy.
like 2 or 3 hours, maybe even less. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, man, it's like I love the back and forth stuff, and
Yeah.
I like to put Kwame on as many of my projects as I can because
Yeah. He's a
um,
legend.
not only that, but he hasn't slipped, man. Like lyrically, he's
Absolutely right.
still you hear a lot of legacy artists from the 80s that you hear new music and you're like, it doesn't give me the same feeling. I think if you go on his Instagram page now and you look at some of the
Yeah.
recent stuff that he's been putting out, I think his pen is just as sharp, if not the sharpest it's ever been. So that's a major thing for me to just because he's been my mentor and my friend for so long. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use whatever platform I have to keep his name in the conversation.
Yeah. And most importantly, your chemistry with him is unbelievably, undeniably dope, man. I
Thank
just
you.
again, you guys sound amazing together. And so it's funny when I saw that Instagram video, that's all was playing. I kept playing back and forth, and I'm glad I didn't realize that it was finally like on digital streaming platforms.
Yeah,
And so I finally got to add it to my playlist. But again, y'all need to check that out. That was crazy, man. So
thank you,
yeah.
bro.
So with that, man, it's amazing that he took you under his wing. In New York, as mentioned, it's a tough grind. Do you have any memorable performances or locations that you like to rock out? I saw you did the Blue Note not too long ago. That looked
Oh yeah.
amazing, man. And so any locations or shows that stick out to you in your mind?
Well, you just said it. I mean, the Blue Note, that's a legendary jazz club in the city.
Yes.
That's how I met Daru Jones, who Daru Jones is probably like outside of Questlove, one of the most accomplished, not just hip hop drummers, but just drummers in general. I mean,
Yeah.
he tours with Jack White. He's in Channel 13 with Pharoah Monch and Marcus Machado. He rocks with Pete Rock and the Soul Brothers. He's works with, I mean, dude, the guy is a virtuoso, man. He's all over the place. So that was
Yeah.
the first night I got to meet him. We ended up doing a project together. He
Yes.
he ended up playing on my 7182313 album, which I
Oh my
recorded in
God.
Detroit.
Another dope one.
That's just I look back on it, I'm like, this crazy that I even got to work with this guy.
Yeah.
And then to perform at the Blue Note and do it as a tribute to Primo and Jay Dilla. We were rhyming over. everyone we were doing they were playing like all their classic beats and bringing MCs on stage to like do rhymes.
Oh
And
man.
that was crazy. Another show was I got to open up for Little Brother in Vegas at Brooklyn Ball in
Whoa.
Vegas. That
Oh
was nuts.
shit.
And that was right before COVID, man. It was like 2 months before everything shut down. That was crazy. Trying to think, man. Who else? Man, I'm blanking right now. But those are the two
Yeah.
ones, man. Like that was like a career highlight for me, man.
Yeah, and I saw that one of the tracks, or maybe the album, had some Grammy consideration. The one that you did with Daru Jones. I thought I read something about that, but yeah, that's another amazing album. And then you mentioned the album that you did with Hush too, as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cow, man, that was great. How was that connection? How did you and Hush meet and come about doing the project?
Um, it's weird. I've known Hush like on and off for like 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Again, it's just I was just a fan of the Detroit underground scene, like
Yeah,
Paradigm, Hush, Jay Dilla, Slum Village, Eminem, D12, Guilty Simpson, all those guys, man. So like,
yeah,
I just remember as a kid, he was putting out albums, and he was one of the guys that was smart enough to put like his email address on there, like.
yeah,
So I'd be on like AIM, and I would just like message him and be like, "Yo, check out this joint I just did." And like over the years, we stayed in touch. Like as I progressed and started working with Kwame and started putting out albums, and then we kind of like fell out of touch for a couple of years, and then
yeah,
when I started really going back in heavy, putting music out, he reached back out to me, and then he just started sending me beats. And I want to say like beginning of COVID is when we really started to lock in and like start doing songs, and it was
yeah,
no clear, there was no clear path of like what it was going to be. It was just we started doing
yeah,
records, and then it really started to take shape when like he got like Marv One involved, and then I got Daru Jones involved, and then he got Guilty, and I brought Kwame, and it's like we started bringing
yeah,
in all these artists from our respective cities, and we're like, all right, this is becoming like a compilation. Like this is bigger than just me and you, and that's kind of where the concept of 7182313 came about, because we had DJs, rappers, and producers. He produced the whole project except for one joint, but Quam did like a little production work and stuff like that.
yeah,
So it was just a meeting of the minds of like all
yeah.
this talent from two cities. And yeah, man, it was like we worked on that album for like 2 years, man. And
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
would go to Detroit and record out of a studio called Silent Riot, and then he would come to
Oh,
New
man.
York, and it was just like we were just putting so many pieces together, and then the way that album came out, I was just super proud of it, man. It's a dope
Yeah,
album.
were there a lot of cuts that didn't make the album, or did everything make the album?
Um, I think probably like two or three.
Yeah.
We did put out a deluxe album that included some of the songs that didn't make it.
Oh, that's
Um,
right.
I mean, honestly, dude, it was one of those albums where it just kept getting better over time. Like
Yeah.
I had to literally put a hard stop on it. Like, yo,
Yeah.
man, we're done. Like, we gotta stop. We gotta stop making songs because this is the never-ending album. You know what I mean? But every song that needed to make it made it. It's probably and the dude Maestro who engineered the album, he's like a silent third member of the group. The album sounds amazing because of him.
Yeah,
So
I'm about halfway through the album. The album was like so good. I had to put it down for a second. Oh my
yeah,
god.
man.
Damn. Yeah. So right on. Are there any physical copies of that actual album, or is it just digital?
We've been trying to get physicals made for a while. It was tough, man, over COVID. Like
Yeah.
everything was so backed up, man. It was like a year lead time to get some stuff done. Like even when I put out the album with Daru through Fat Beats, it took a
Yep.
good 7 to 8 months to get the vinyl version of it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So yeah, it's digital right now. I'm trying to get things together where I could finally put some physical merch out with all the albums that I dropped. It's just tough, man. It's
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's one I definitely wouldn't mind buying, and I just picked up that one that you did with Neff too, man. So I'm excited to get that in the mail.
Yeah, man.
But hey, man, I wanted to go into some of your albums, man. So I wanted to take it back real quick to 2019 Summer Classics. 16 tracks of banging boom bap rap. A lot of dope features on that too, as well. But hey, what was in your mind when you were putting that project together? How did that come about?
I was coming off of a pretty substantial hiatus, man. Like there was a period where I was just kind of like frustrated and didn't even know if I wanted to do this anymore. So
Oh
like
shit.
a lot of that album was like really like, all right, man, I'm really gonna dive headfirst into this. And some of those songs, you know, had been in the stash. You know, it was an album that had been in the works for maybe like 2 years prior to that. But again, it was just like I wasn't fully focused. So, you know, once I got my mind right and was like, all right, this is I'm really gonna put my best foot forward and like really pursue this the way I want to. Then the album started to come into fruition. Like that's really Kwame's like the executive producer of that album because he produced like 70% of it. So
Oh wow.
we just like you know, we were doing records back and forth for maybe like 6 months, and then he ended up moving out to Cali, and I went to go stay with him for like 2 weeks, and we wrapped up pretty much everything that we needed to do. And then I started bringing in other producers because I started working with Static at that time. So Static did 2 joints on the album. Jake One did a joint. My boy DJ Wonder did one. Who else? I started getting some features in the door. Got Killer Priest on there. Got
Yeah.
you know,
Fame.
Little Fame. Yeah, Little Fame.
Woo!
So it was like things at that time. Things started to kind of come into fruition. Like I was finishing the album. I was kind of making my bones on the New York scene, like making the right connections, and you know that album came together just kind of leveraging all the relationships I had at that time and picking the best songs that I had made it at that time and putting it together.
Yeah, that's dope, man. And I want to just kind of highlight 3 songs that I really enjoyed from that album too. And one was the first one, Bobby J for President by Jake One.
Yep.
Always want to show love with the lyrics, man. I came out my mama's womb, feet first, Rosemary's Baby second coming, Rebirth. God dang it, line after line, man. They beg and drop the album, stop giving singles, because I steal the show like Friends did the living single. Shit. And it just kept getting crazier, man. And so last line I wanted to quote was the still I'm underground just trying to breach the sediment. This beat is hitting, spitting like a speech impediment. You hold these truths to be self-evident. Your whole team lobbies and screams, Bobby J for president. God dang, man. So, man, I just love it, man. You're very, oh, man, you're very calculated when you put verses together. I can tell that you spend a lot of time on what you write, man, and I appreciate that, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you listening. You know.
Yeah, yeah. And so my second favorite track on there was Bite Me, and that was a beat produced by DJ Wonder, which was fucking amazing too.
Yeah.
And again, man, I'm gonna be the change I want to see, defeat the lames and the wannabes. Is anyone real? I'll break you like a $20 bill and keep the change in my dungarees. Jesus Christ.
Yo, man, like I forgot about some of these bars, man. It's like,
yeah, and that's the shit too, man. Like, oh man, whenever you hear like another MC spit some crazy shit, you know, you're like, damn, dude. Like, so
yeah, man, it's all to get a laugh, man. Like most of the time, it's just to make people smile and get a reaction.
yeah, I love it. And that's where the return with Kwame was, and that's how I mentioned about the back and forth stuff. And that's not easy to do, man. Some people do it good, but some people are amazing at it. I think you're on that same caliber as Nas, AZ, Mos Def, Kweli, man. And just the way that you put it together was amazing, man.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to see that. Have you guys ever performed that live or no?
Yes, yeah, we've done it a couple times.
Shoot.
We did that at Brooklyn Bowl, man. That was crazy. It was crazy because the sound system in there was like I could feel it in my feet. You know what I mean? So the energy was crazy when we did it, man. You know, it's tough because I'm on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast. So like we speak every day, but like you know, over the past couple of years, we haven't been in the same room together in a while. So you know, it's always fun to be able to perform with him. You know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then just one line from that. Sick with the similes and similac. Oh man. Golly. So hey man, that was dope, man, and an awesome project, and I'm glad that that you decided to come back, man. So crazy, man. I think everybody has that period where they want to take a break, and I'm glad that you decided to put this album together, which fed into your 2020 release of Endless Summer. And so you mentioned that the relationship started improving and just meeting more folks and started networking more, and you had some tracks on there, more tracks with Static Select on that. Yeah. And how was that? How did that connection happen?
So it's funny. So I have a friend named Sean who's like maybe close to 10 years older than me, and he's from my neighborhood. He's always been like a huge just supporter of what I was doing. And it's funny I mentioned Brooklyn Bowl because he was like the GM at Brooklyn Bowl in Brooklyn at one point. And so a lot of artists and DJs would come through there and he would try to leverage his relationships in any way that he could to help me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Sure.
Static used to always just be in there, you know, for shows, or he would be there bowling with his daughter and they got to know each other. And he was like, listen, man, like I kind of know Static Selector. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't say we're friends, but like we have, you know, like a rapport. I'm going to try to get you in the studio with him. And I remember he goes, oh no, this is what happened. He goes, come to the J Electronica show at Brooklyn Bowl. I think Static's going to be there. Maybe I can introduce you to him. And I'm like, all right. And at the end of the J Electronica show, he said, he does this, I think, in every city. He goes, is there any rappers in the crowd? Come up and spit something. And I was like halfway drunk at that point. It was the day before my birthday. So I was like kind of drunk. Like I wasn't like fully focused. Yeah. And I remember him grabbing me by the shoulder. He's like, you're going up there. And he knew the security. So he's like, he pushed me on stage. I didn't even get chosen. He just pushed me on stage and like, people looked at me like, people were like, oh, like what's about to happen, you know? Yeah. And these other two dudes rhymed. I don't even remember what they said. And I probably did like 8 bars and I got like a big crowd reaction. You know what I'm saying? And like, I think after that, I might've fucked up. Like, I think I only got through like 8 bars, but whatever I said, J Electronica like was like jumping around. The video's on YouTube if you check it out. Shit. J Electronica was jumping around and it's funny, man. Like, you know, he's like a 5%er. So he was like, you know, I don't even want to give this man the trophy, but like, I got to give it up to him. He's like, you are a sign of the times that things are changing. And he gave me like a huge pound. And I was like, this is surreal, right? So Static was in the audience, you know what I mean? And I ended up meeting him after that. So I think that kind of I don't even know if he remembers that, but in my mind, that's how it happened. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I met him after that. And then we got in the studio and we did this joint called Walter White, which was on the Summer Classics album. God.
That's another one, man.
That was the first joint that we did together. And that was kind of the start of the relationship there. And then he ended up doing a song called Blue Eyed Soul. And then I think I did his radio show on Shade 45. And we had been talking about like, yo, let's do a project together. And yeah, that's how it came about. We just got in the studio and he probably played me, I don't know, 200 beats. Jeez. And I narrowed that down to 20. And it's not easy to do, man. Like every last beat is fire. It's just like
I bet.
It's just like, is this what I'm looking for? You know what I mean? And you know, he was patient with me. Like I literally sat in the studio for probably like 3 or 4 hours just listening to beats. And you know, I had him put maybe 20 beats in a folder, and then I narrowed that down to 5, which became the Endless Summer project. And around that same time, Neff was his like right-hand man. Like Neff was his day-to-day engineer. So me and Neff got real cool. And Neff worked on my first album, Summer Classics, and then he ended up doing 2 bonus joints on the Endless Summer album, on the Endless Summer album. So man, it's just like I owe Static Selector so much because so many relationships that I've made have come out of his circle of friends. You know what I mean? Yeah. From Neff to Dom Dirty to Terminology to, you know, Element, Bolo, like Nasty, you know, all these people that are just in his circle, man. Destroy, you know, and these are people that support me, man. Like he plays my records, has me on his show, you know what I mean? Like he's been one of the most pivotal people for me, you know, and just helping me as a rapper, you know what I mean? And, you know, I've told him that a million times and it's just like, you know, it's crazy, man. It's crazy that, you know, I have his number in my phone and I can, when I put a song out, I can send it to him, you know?
That's awesome,
you know,
man.
It's invaluable relationships, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, you're certainly putting in the work. And at that point, though, you know, you mentioned 2019, you were coming off that hiatus, and at that point in 2020, were you like, okay, I'm gonna do this full swing? So you're already in that mind state.
Yeah, man. I made a promise to myself, man. It's like I just got to keep moving forward. Like I try to, as soon as an album's done, I'm like, all right, what's next? Like I got, so much work in the stash right now, man. It's
Oof.
just staying consistent and not having any lulls, man. Like I literally get anxious. Like if I'm not working on something, I get like anxiety about it. So,
Oh wow.
it's just constantly moving forward, man. It's the only way to do it, just keep putting stuff out.
Yeah, and I love it too. And it's funny, how you mentioned your hiatus on that album. You did a track called "Ungrateful," where you talked about your frustration with hip
Yeah.
hop, questioning why you do it, and understanding what the commercial scene was like. Talking about leaving boom bap for some trap, and
Yeah,
man, that song really hit hard, man. That
man.
was really introspective track, man. And I really enjoyed the Moonlight track too, as well, where you talked about all the soul singers and rock
Yeah.
legends, Dave Bowie. So man, hey, that's another album, man. Really good, man. I
Thank
want to talk now about your probably latest album. I think it's Radio Days, right? That you did with Neff,
you. Yeah.
that you released earlier this year, and so that was the result. I mean, it's a couple years later, but when did you guys decide finally that you guys went to do the album, and how long were you working on that album before it got released?
Well, we probably worked on it for like 6 months, but then sat on
Oh,
it for like another 6 months to like make sure that everything we did was like super up to par. Again, Neff was an artist that I met, through Static. We did a couple joints together, and every joint that we did ended up getting some kind of major look. Like I think the first song that Primo ever touched of mine might have been a song produced by Neff. And it's crazy because my first album had so many big name producers on it, and Preem ends up choosing an album cut that wasn't even released as a single that Neff produced. So it was
oh,
like, all right, this kind of made both our ears perk up. Like, yo, there's a chemistry here. Like every time we make something, it elicits some type of reaction. So we're
yeah.
like, it only makes sense to make an album. And yeah, man, I was working on that album while I was finishing up the 7182313 album.
Okay.
So, like I kind of like finish some things over here, come back to it, finish some things over here,
Yep.
come back to it. And yeah, man, it's just I think me and Neff have like a very unique working relationship because like we're kind of like the same dude, you know what I mean? He's from like
Oh,
a beach town in New Hampshire. He kind of doesn't really fit the mold of like your typical hip hop producer, nor do I a rapper, you know what I mean? So we just bonded over a lot of different shit. And you know, he respected my vision, and I've seen him elevate as a producer and as an engineer over the past couple of years. And like we really just fine tune that album like to the best of our ability. And I love it, man. Like I'm super proud of that project. And I'm on a project that he's about to drop coming out soon. And I mean, I
nice.
want to make another one. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy. And now he works with Primo, man. Like he's Primo's guy now. So it's to see him elevate the way he has from the day I met him to where he's
Yes.
at now. Like I'm just super proud of him, man. Like he's put in the work, and I think he's becoming like one of the premier New York producers, man. Like his
Yeah.
resume is insane.
Yeah, his beats are amazing, man. I love his stuff too, and again, I can't wait to get the actual physical copy. A lot of great tracks that I love too. Jump, from the jump, leaving, fade away. Man, that beat was crazy. That from the jump, the fucking dissertation, the substance that I make hasn't been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Holy cow, man! Yeah, great album, man. So shout out to you on that. And just man, again, just back to back projects, really great stuff. And then also want to talk about some of the side stuff that you did, man. So some of the side tracks that you put out, on social media. And the first one I wanted to bring up was the House of Pain Jump Around remix. Oh my God, man, that was dope. But man, I thought you killed that, man. Oh, and I
Thanks,
think that
man.
was a great tribute to your Irish background. You did it back home, right? And
Yep.
what kind of inspired the idea to do that track?
Uh, you know what? I mean, it's just like it just made sense, man. Like I'm Irish. We have our own, St.
Yeah.
Patrick's Day parade every year. I was doing a video freestyle series every week called Breakfast Bars, and I was like,
Oh,
so I would do a freestyle over a classic, basically 90s or just whatever beat I was feeling at the time. Honestly,
yeah.
I was doing like a video freestyle series and doing it for Instagram and putting it on my YouTube channel. So I think that was just one week, it was coming up on St. Patrick's Day, and it's like, you know, that it's kind of taboo to touch a beat like that because it's so iconic and it's embedded into like
Right.
just the hip hop consciousness, you know what I mean? So it's like, all right, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta try to do it justice, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's dope, man, because I know, Danny Boy, he follows me, like he saw it, Everlast saw it, and commented on it. And it was like, those guys to me, man, House of Pain, that's one of the first groups that like I saw it. I was like, I identify with that. Like that's me,
That's right.
rapping on they're at the St. Patrick's Day parade, they're in the bar, like that's the kind of culture I grew up around. So,
Yeah.
for them to be Irish and not just be rappers but make real hip hop.
That's right.
And have classics, you know what I mean? Like real legitimate hip hop classics. Like they're a huge inspiration to me, man. Like I love House of Pain, dude.
Yeah.
Through and through. They're one of my favorite groups.
Yeah, I think that was an amazing tribute, man. And again, the lyrics too, man. I could quote you all day, man. But I really appreciated that track. And then your latest single you put out, Per Usual, with Dano and Little Vic. Oh man, another freaking amazing single, man. The beat was crazy. And so, how did that connection come about, man? Are these guys that you just know from around the way, or
Um,
how
me
was
and
that?
Little Vic have been working together over the past 2 years. I mean, me and him just got really close. We're working on a project right now. He's just I don't know how we ended up. I think we just followed each other on Instagram, but like
Uh-huh.
I met him probably around this time, like 2 years ago, and we did a
Okay.
song called Duck Sauce together, which is another back and forth joint. You should check that one out. And yo, man, like his skills as a rapper, like not only are his beats crazy, but he's like an elite level rapper, man. Like he's incredible. So being in the studio with him and like writing with him on the spot and like almost like, checking each other's work. Like he's in the room and I know like he's counting like all the syllables, like he's like a real like he's a very technical rapper, you know what I mean? So it working with him elevates me a lot because
Yeah.
it's just friendly competition. So yeah, man, he's just become a really good friend of mine, and he as a producer has really made a name for himself over the past couple of years, man. Like he did a project with Rashid Chappelle. He did the Royal Flush Sean Price album that came
Oh
out. Um, he's working with. I mean, he's working with some names that I don't even know if I'm at liberty to talk about. But
man.
listen, man. Like it'd be one thing if he was just a dope producer, but he's an incredible producer and maybe even a better rapper than he is producer. So, man,
Oh,
we got some shit coming out, dude. So,
yeah,
uh,
I really enjoyed that track, man. So shout out to all you guys. That was another well assembled track. Uh, the next track I want to bring up too is a song that's on my playlist probably just about every day when I'm driving, man. And and I told you before we did this interview, man, I was very excited to talk to you about the track that you did with Mr. Cheeks, Nobody. Holy cow, that was probably the illest Lost Boys tribute verse ever, man. And
yeah.
oh man, how long? I mean, every line was something referenced by a track that the Lost Boys did. And how long did that take you to put together, man?
Pretty quick, man. Like honestly, like
Woo!
like I'm a huge Lost Boys fan. So it's like
Yeah,
I got to meet Cheeks through a mutual friend, and like
nice.
I just wanted him to know, like when he listened to the verse, I wanted him to know that like I was a fan. You know what I'm saying? Because
So
Le-
good.
Legal Drug Money is like one of my all-time favorite albums, man. So it was easy for me to pull on those references because I was so familiar with the catalog.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. And rest in peace to Freaky Top. But oh man, that song I listen to quite frequently, man. So I really enjoyed that too, as a Lost Boys fan. So man, y'all need to check that out. Um, and another track I wanted to talk to you about is a song that you did with a mutual friend that we have in Chrome. So Chrome produced the track that you did with MC Search around here.
Yeah,
Oh
man.
man, how was it like getting the call to be on that song?
Uh, it was dope, man. I mean, me and Serge had a prior relationship. Just like
Oh, okay.
I had done his show. He was aware. I think the Static album was when he really became aware of me, and like obviously the Rockaway connection, like he was somebody who I was trying to get on his radar for a minute, and just his resume, not just as a rapper, but like what he did behind the scenes with Nas and OC and Nonfiction and all these people that I was super fans of. It kind of came full circle, man, because Chrome had a relationship with him, and he had been sending him beats, and Chrome was like, "Yo, I got this joint with Search. You want to get on it?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, send it over."
Yes.
And it was like a sketch. His verse was different when I first heard it, but he was doing this thing where he was constantly saying "around here." So I took that, I crafted a hook around it, and then I wrote my verse about growing up in Rockaway, like where I grew up in Rockaway Beach, and he ended up writing another verse that basically was him talking about growing up in Far Rock. So it was kind of like a meeting of the two sections. So, dude, it's surreal to even think about. You know what I mean? Like he's a legend. And I wouldn't be here without Third Base, and I wouldn't be here without some of the artists that he helped put on. So it was a super honor, man. Like to put out a song with somebody who I consider to be a legend, and not just that. Like I think it was his first single that he had released in like 28 years or something like that. So it was dope, man. It was a dope experience.
Yeah. Chrome mentioned too. It was you guys had to be very careful. It was the first song, like you mentioned, that he put out in years, and so what an amazing track to come back to. And that's another thing I want to give you credit for is your hook writing ability. I don't think that's an easy feat, and I think you're very good at writing hooks, man.
Thank you, man.
I just love the way that you think too, and I've seen a lot of interviews where you talk about that you really aim to inspire the imagination of your listeners, and in your mind as you put these words together, you want to be the dude that makes music that inspires the young minds. So, I mean, I really like that and enjoy folks who think about mentorship. And you mentioned throughout this interview that you've had a lot of mentors. So I like how you give it back, man.
Thank you, man. Yeah, that's what it's about, man. Because it's like me at 13, 14 years old, that's when you kind of really discover what your tastes are and like the artists that you like and who you want to be like. I want to be the same artist to a young kid now that, guys like Eminem, Chino XL and Pun and Nas were to me. It's like, if I'm not doing that, then the style of rap that I do is going to die out. It's important. It's important that, I make the type of music that I do, that the producers I work with make the type of beats that they do, just to give an alternative to what's out there in the mainstream. I want a young kid to hear my music and maybe want to start rapping. No,
absolutely, man. And I applaud you for that. And I'm sure that you are on many MCs' bucket list in terms of them wanting to work with you. But I mean, you have a laundry list of amazing folks that you work with. Is there anybody on your bucket list who you love to work with, man? That you really would like to do some tracks with?
Oh man, I mean, Black Thought.
Oh yeah.
Pharoah Monch. Method Man.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like Nas, Jay, Eminem. Dude, Chino XL. Who else? Apathy, I'd love to work with.
Cannabis would be dope, man.
Cannabis. Listen, man, like there's so many. Like it's hard for me to even go down the Rolodex. Yeah. It's like there's so many people. It's hard for me to even name them. But like those first guys I mentioned, man, those are like my idols. Black Thought's my idol. Method Man's my idol. Pharoah Monch is my idol. Like I would love to do something with those guys.
Yeah, I love that, man. Always showing love, man. And with that, man, you've been in the game for a long time, and hip hop it just continues to evolve. And how are you liking how hip hop is evolving, man? Are you happy with it? You liking the new stuff that you're hearing?
Yeah, man. Like I think the underground is thriving. I think there's a lot of kids that are young kids that are doing the style of rap that I do, and I think there's hope. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to judge it by what's just in the mainstream. Obviously, commercial rap is 95% garbage. I think there are some great, commercial artists though. I'm like a huge J. Cole fan.
Yes.
love him or hate him, I think Drake is a great rapper too. You know, I think Kendrick is a great rapper.
Yes.
You know, these guys are there's guys out there making quality music. Pusha T, you
Yeah.
know. So you know, I don't dislike all of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is bad. You know what I mean? I think that the barrier to entry is too low, and you know, there's no checks and balances as far as you know who's allowed to come in and who's not allowed to come in. Not to say that someone should be the arbiter of who's allowed to rap or not, but it's like, you know, social media has exacerbated people being in the game that are solely motivated by either clout or
Yeah.
fame or whatever. They don't have a real love and appreciation for the music, and it's like it's microwave, it's popcorn, you know what I mean? Like I'm a fan of artists that are going to be, you know, have 10, 15, 20-year careers, you know what I mean? I think the guys that I mentioned, you
Yeah.
know, are at the top because they're students of the game and they love the music. You know, there's a lot of flash in the pan artists, you know. So I just want to see more, you know, I don't really care. Like, you don't have to make the style of music that I make. I just want to know that
Yeah.
you're serious about what you do, that like you
That's
really,
right.
that you really pay attention to the craft and like you want to be the best artist that you could be, you know. So it's not about me being an elitist or like I only like, you know, rappers that make, you know, East Coast boom bap music. That's not
Yeah.
it at all. Like I just want to know that, you know, if you're doing this, you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, well said, man. I appreciate that response. What do you love more, writing the song or actually performing it?
I mean, I love performing it, but I, you know, the creative process is my favorite thing. You know, that's my favorite thing to do, man. Like just making something from scratch and you know, hearing something like
Yeah.
an idea turn into a fully fleshed out thing I really can't describe it, man. That's the reason I do it. You know,
Oh,
the creative process is the best, and working with people is very fun too. You know.
yes, I agree, man. Wait, what's your favorite song to perform? What is always on a Bobby J playlist when he's going to perform live?
Um, I like Monsters to do on Maple Street.
Oh,
I
yes,
love
that's okay.
I love doing Where I'm From. I mean, getting to perform The Return was really dope. I mean, it changes, man. Like, I mean, me and Vic got to do Duck Sauce, opening up for Nonfiction a couple
Oh,
months ago. That was dope. You know what I mean? Like, being able to feed off another rapper's energy is really cool. You know what I'm saying? I love that. It changes, dude, because like I'm always working on new music. So,
okay.
you know, what might be my favorite song to perform now might not be the same in 6 months when I have something new that I could do. You know,
That's a
so
good point.
it definitely it evolves over time. But yeah, there's a couple that are just mainstays. You know what I mean?
I love it, man. Why? Hey, how do you manage to stay inspired these days and motivated to create new music? Anything that helps that drive?
Um, I go back in time a lot. You know, I study a lot of the classics. You know, I'm always a student, man. Just like, you know, I just go through phases. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm only listening to Slick Rick. I'm only listening to Cool G Rap, or you know, I'm trying to listen to some obscure underground artists that you know I didn't pay attention to when they were out. You know what I mean? Like that's that's me for the most part. You know, and it's hard for me to find inspiration in new music. I think keeping people around me that are very talented, like
Yep.
again, working with Little Vic and like seeing how he does it, that keeps me on my toes, you know. And I
Yeah.
told him that I'm like, dude, it's really hard to like be inspired. Like I want to write when I hear somebody rap really well and
Yep.
say something that I'm like, damn, I should have thought of that. Like, why didn't I think of that? You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff that gets me motivated. So you know, or it might just be like, you know, I'm working with a producer by the name of Dom Dirty right now. We're working on a project, and it's just like his beats are so incredible. They make me want to rap a certain way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just hearing a particular beat. It might be hearing a rapper. It might be an old song. It might be a new song. I mean, it's just I'm always searching for inspiration. But I think you know I'm an old soul, so so much of the past inspires what I do now. You know, I'm always going back in time to find ideas and inspiration for something new. You know,
Oh man, that's dope. What is the best piece of advice that another musician has ever given you in terms of just staying at it or just doing your craft?
yeah. Don't give up.
Yeah.
It's really like it's that simple, man. I used to think that was like, um, I used to think that was just like some generic bullshit. Like someone says, yeah, don't give up. You know what I mean? Like, okay, what that doesn't actually. It's probably the truest thing that anyone could ever tell you, man. It's like if you just stay persistent and you keep at it and you keep putting stuff out and you don't quit. That's the biggest obstacle you'll face is whatever self-doubt, frustration,
Yeah.
people telling you it's never going to work. Those are the things, those are the biggest obstacles you'll ever face. It's your own self-doubt, seriously. And I think any artist that has been doing this for a long time will understand what I'm saying, but it's like anyone I've ever spoken to who's successful, the only real difference between them and somebody who isn't is just they didn't stop. They just kept going and kept going and kept going because eventually it's going to pay off, man. Like eventually it's going to work. And there's so much of this that is contingent on being in the right place at the right time or luck. But there's a higher percentage of something lucky happening to you if you just keep putting yourself out there.
I love that.
You could create situations for yourself where, lucky things are more likely to happen.
I like that.
It's certain things that have happened to me. It's like I just happened to be in the right place at the right time and I got to meet this person and the chain of events that happened after that helped me. But that's just the way it is, man. Like, you got to put yourself out there. You got to be in people's faces. Networking and relationships is equally as important as your skill and talent as an artist. If you just sit in your basement all day, it's not going to happen for you. You know what I mean? So those things, man, they sound like they're not, like it's not special advice, but it's probably the best advice I could give anybody.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What an interesting perspective, man. Yeah, hey, I appreciate that. All right, man. Well, hey, man, thank you again for the opportunity to go into your music, man. And so outside of music, aside from learning to be a father, man, what do you like to do for fun outside of music?
Man, I'm like the most boring person ever. At this point, it's like, hanging out with my daughter, my
That's
wife,
great.
my friends, just like hanging out with my friends. It's very mundane, normal stuff, man. Like, obviously when it's summertime, like I'm a big like beach body, like I'm at the beach every weekend, I need to be by a coast somewhere, you know what I mean? So, it's really, that's it, man. Like friends and family, like outside of music, it's just friends and family, man.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, hey, man, thanks, man. Well, with that, hey, let's learn a little like more personal intricacy about Bobby J, man. Hey, well, I'm a big comedy flick fan, man. What's your favorite comedy movie of all time?
Oh man, I mean, I'm a huge comedy fan. Favorite comedy movie? All right. Let me think about this for a second. Team America,
Yeah,
Office Space,
nice.
Office Space. I mean, shit. I mean, I love what Tim Robinson is doing right now with I Think You Should Leave. That's probably one of my favorite comedy shows out right now. I know it's not a movie. Nathan
Yeah.
Fielder, like Nathan for You, is one of my all time favorites. The original Ali G show.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh shoot, yeah.
man,
I forgot
uh,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, man. Like I'm a fan of like that style of comedy. Obviously, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Um, I know you asked about movies, but like I'm trying to think. I mean, O.G. Simpsons is probably the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Shit,
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's great. That's a great run, man.
man.
And all right, what about food wise, man? What's your favorite type of food to eat?
Steak,
All day, man. What,
hundred
what about
percent. Huh?
what about Filipino food? You ever had Filipino food?
I'm very uncultured, man. I'm like steak and potatoes. I don't
Hey,
know what is Filipino cuisine, man. Like I don't, maybe I have. I'm not. I got to be put on, man.
yeah, no, hey, man. So we got one that's very famous that a lot of people talk about is lumpia, which is an egg roll, right? And
All
then,
right.
yeah. So we got like dishes like adobo and pancit. But if you come to Hawaii, man, I'll square you away, man. Well, with that, man, are there any projects that you want to highlight or just let people know about that's coming in the near future?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, if you haven't, if you're just checking me out, check out the albums we talked about, right? Summer Classics, Endless Summer, 7182313, and the latest one is Radio Days. And I got a bunch of features on the way. I'm not at liberty to talk about it yet until they are going to be released, but I got a big feature coming up soon. And then I got two albums in the works, man. Like I'm working on a project with Little Vic. And also some songs are going to be part of his project, and me and Dom Dirty, man. Like me and Dom Dirty have been working for the past couple months, like really locking in. We're almost finished with the album, so I don't know which one of those is going to come out first, but that's what I've really been, wrapping my head around. But I would say within the next couple months, like you're going to start to see a lot of music roll out. Like I've been kind of silent, like I've been, dealing with the family stuff and like haven't been as active on like the social media, but I've been very busy with music. So you're gonna, there's a lot of stuff in the stash about to come out.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. And where's the best place to find your music? Is it all on digital streaming platforms?
Yeah, if you want to support iTunes, Bandcamp, but if you just search Bobby J from Rockaway, you'll find me on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, Tidal, whatever you use. It's my name's very searchable. If there's another Bobby J from Rockaway out there, then I got a problem. But anyone who searches will find it, man. Like all my albums are out there, and if you want to support, like I said, man, like iTunes, you buy it, that's the best way to help me out,
100%, man. And before we close this amazing interview out, man, is there anybody that you want to shout out or thank?
Yeah, man, I want to shout out, everybody that is showing me support, man. Like, Static, thank you for playing my records. Primo, thank you for playing my records. Eclipse and Riz, thank you for playing my records, man.
Yes.
Thanks for working with me, guys. Like Neff, Dom Dirty, Little Vic, Static, Kwame. These are all guys that played a role in whatever success you want to say I have. This isn't a one-man show. There's so many people that are part of these projects and help behind the scenes, from the engineers to the producers to, the guys that are marketing the projects, like Rev from EMS. Thank you for helping with Radio Days. The DJs that play your records. It's a lot of hands go into making this stuff work. So, I'm just grateful for all the people that have helped me and the fans last but not least, the fans who listen, the people that are buying the albums, the people that care enough to listen to it. That's the whole reason I do it. It bugs me out that I could put something out and people actually care to, press play. So.
Hey, man, that's awesome, dude. Well, with that, hey, thank you again for your time. Like I mentioned when we were speaking before this, when I first heard your music at the start of COVID, man, it was a rap instant fan. You're an amazing lyricist. I think songwriter and cats are going to have to step their pen game up if they want to get on track with you. But I look forward to all your future projects, and I wish you and your family all the best, man. Thank you again.
Thank you, bro. It was really an honor. Thanks for having me, man.
All right.
All right, brother.